What is happening, my friend?
Hello, it's been a month.
Well, don't say that.
Oh, why?
Maybe people don't know.
I think they've known every week for like 4 weeks.
Oh, you've been waiting to say that and throw us under the bus, but people don't know. People don't care.
Well, that's good. I mean, if they didn't miss us, I guess that's something to consider. But for those of you that did, it's good to be back.
It's good to be back. Good to see you, Dr. Watkins.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to having an intellectual conversation with you today. You're looking good. You're feeling good. You're walking straight.
I am feeling good. Everything's good. Medically speaking, everything's good.
As far as you know.
So I'm going to let Travis off the hook. There was a medical procedure. You guys hear about most of the time. So this week, most of us older guys are going to have it sooner or later. So it's no big deal. It's a colonoscopy. So, I mean, some radio people have actually done that live on the air. You know?
Well, I thought that you said they put you out.
They did put me out. Yeah, they did put me out.
If these radio people did it live on the air and they were put out, wouldn't that be illegal? Like you're under what's the shit they gave you?
Well, I think they led right up to it or something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Because you could do anything at that point.
Maybe it was a prostate exam or something.
Right.
I don't know.
What's the shit they gave you?
Propofol, right? The Michael Jackson fun drug.
Right, but it was that. So you had it like in an IV, and was that how he was taking it too? Remember the fucking doctor?
I think he was drinking it out of the vial.
Right, because remember the doctor? He got arrested because he left it, unattended, and
he went to jail.
That's right.
Yeah, that guy got convicted of whatever.
Who just it was negligence, right, for leaving the drugs out.
Yeah, I go, so what are you going to give me to put me out? She goes, oh, Propofol. I go, oh, the Michael Jackson drug. She goes, yeah, but not unsupervised, not unattended,
right.
Not self-medicating.
That's the second Michael Jackson reference I've heard in a week. A buddy of mine said to me the other day, his knee was hurting and he was going upstairs Michael Jackson style. I didn't even know what that meant, and it was over a text, and I texted him back and I said, what diddling little boys up the stairs?
What does that mean? What the hell does that mean?
So with those drugs, I mean, like even with Advil, I could barely get the jar open. How the hell was Michael Jackson getting it and drinking it or whatever he was doing?
Oh, the doctor was giving it to him. It just wads of it, like on demand. There was so much. I'd almost forgotten all about that.
What the hell was his name?
The doctor?
Yeah,
I do not remember.
Is he in jail? Right?
He's out. He's out now, but he did go to jail.
Right, I remember that.
There was a trial. He got convicted. A lot of people thought it was wrong, but come on. I mean, the guy's dead. I mean, if that's not negligence, what is?
Because that's one of those drugs where you got to keep upping the dose, right? You take it and you feel good and whatever.
Yes,
but you took enough to actually put you out in one jab or whatever they gave you.
Well, they had an IV in my hand, which was just hardly any mark left at all. It was like the guy goes, hey, this is going to come on pretty fast, so I'm going to say goodbye and see you on the other side. And then that's it. I said, okay. And that's the last thing I remember.
That's how you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I'm laying there with an open back hospital gown on my side, right? And I, just waiting for them to bring in all the 20-year-old nurses and everything else.
You should have put the gown on backwards.
I know, man.
Just they couldn't get in there and get to you.
Yeah, that would be great. When they pull back the cover, hey buddy, this is on backwards.
Right? Do they check that? You think before they have to roll you over to the bed?
Well, I mean, if it'd be obvious it was on backwards.
Yeah. So
the whole thing was actually they were really super nice people. So they were very, I think that they have this is all they do. It's a what do they call it? It's not a hospital, so it's a surgical center. So any kind of surgery that you can have where you can go home immediately where you don't need to remain hospitalized.
Like an outpatient.
They can do there. Yeah.
And there was no stairs, so you were good.
Yeah, there were no stairs. Oh, my God. So just before, during our absence, there was, when I got back from vacation, immediately following my return from vacation, there was a trade show. This trade show was held in a 2-story building with the whole trade show on the second floor. So then these assholes they have 2 elevators, both out of order. So
isn't that illegal? Isn't that ageism or whatever you call it? That's against the Americans with Disabilities Act.
I drive all the way up to Montebello, and I almost fucking turned around.
You should have.
Yeah, I should have said, hey, you know what? I got a flat tire on the way here. Couldn't make it. See ya. So, yeah, it was perfect. Yeah. So, but work has been great. I went to Hawaii while we were gone, and
You shouldn't have come back.
neither should you.
I know.
So, and that's not why. Well, it is sort of why. That's one of the contributing reasons why we kind of had a little lapse.
Well, and as soon as I got back, I got COVID.
There you go. I wasn't going to put that out
Yeah,
there.
why
but-
not?
Yeah, why not?
We're all going to get COVID.
I don't know. I'm working hard at not getting it. So
Well,
far,
all
so good.
all through this whole
Unless
crazy.
you give it to me right now.
I know. I was going to ask you if we should screen ourselves this morning, but that's the thing. The screenings are not really accurate, especially. I'm assuming I got the Omicron variant.
Yeah.
I guess that's what they say is
They say
around.
It's over 99% of all cases now are Omicron. So it totally overtook the Delta variant. So, which is a good thing.
And I was I felt at peak vaccine protection because I had just gotten my booster about 4 weeks before I was exposed, and so I was notified that I was exposed, and it was direct exposure, and it was a group of us during training, and it was 2 days later. So my exposure happened 2 days before, felt fine, was notified 2 days after the fact, and then about 2 days after that, I started feeling pretty shitty. And all the symptoms seem like what you're hearing about with this variant, sore throat first, and then it was, body aches and chills, and then a fever developed. You don't lose taste or smell with this one, and then you round it out with a dry cough.
That's what I hear. A lot of people don't have much respiratory effect at all.
Right.
So, well, I mean,
But I tested negative on the home test like 3 times.
before you went positive,
Yeah, before
after you were informed.
yes, and I eventually took a PCR test, but I didn't even need that because everybody else in my group was feeling shitty. Everybody else tested positive. And I wasn't going to get tested.
Right.
I'm like, well, I know I have it.
Look, can you think of? I mean, this was like what your activity was like custom made for transmitting COVID. You guys are in close contact. Everybody's, straining physically, working. You're breathing in as deep and hard as you can. I mean,
But I mean, I've like we have said, I've not been trying to get it for the last 2 years, and I haven't.
right.
And so, but that's the other thing they say with this particular variant, it spreads that much more easily.
Did it occur to you that activity might be putting you at a higher risk of contracting COVID?
Oh yeah, from the very beginning. And that was, have the conversations with the wife about, you don't know, who you're training with, but you don't know what they do and blah, blah, blah. And go back 2 years ago when there were no vaccines. And again, I wasn't trying to get it, but I wasn't going to stop my lifestyle.
Right, right. So was there any I told you so from the wife?
Yeah, it was not a good week because I gave it to everybody.
I'm sorry to laugh, but yeah, that sounds like a terrible. I mean, there's nothing I like less than. I mean, look. Debbie is usually right when she tells me something, and so, but yet still, when it comes out that I disagree with her about something, and then she's proven right, I really don't like it. So,
well, and again, you bring it home, so in order, and I was at home for 2 days before I knew I was exposed. So, I'm with my kids, we're playing, we're having fun. So I'm rubbing the Covita all over them without even knowing it. And then it was like dominoes. So, by the time I started getting symptoms, and then a couple days later, it just hit everybody.
So you didn't move out of the house or anything like
No.
that once you knew about
The only time I left was to go do the PCR test.
Oh, wow. Did you guys talk about it? Like, hey, should I go to a hotel, or did that never?
The damage was done. But you know what? I was like, should I wear a mask? And which is in the house, which is so dumb. And you know me, it's not that I'm anti-mask. I mean, I will and do wear one when I need to, although I think it's dumb.
Yeah, but that kind of close contact, I mean, you and the kids and the other people all need to be wearing like N95s and still keep your distance because, they're not airtight. So.
And the damage was done. I mean, at that point, it was already, we had been close to one another. And the kids were like, bummed out because they understand, but, they're like, well, just whatever, Dad, let's just get it over with. But the shit thing is, and this goes back to what we've talked about and what I always say from the very beginning, the reason that I got it and we all got it was because a person came to our gym who had been exposed and wasn't feeling well and had already taken a test. And so
why the hell did he do that?
I don't know. And then so we got the message that it was actually a female, and that hey, so and so, wasn't feeling well, and
this is a co-ed class.
Yeah, co-ed strangulation. We don't have any prejudices.
What is this? Professional autoerotica?
That's not as erotic as what you were doing the other day, my friend.
Uh-oh. What? I don't know what you're talking about.
With your little bottom end exploratory procedure.
Oh my God. There's nothing erotic about that. Trust me. The good news is I don't remember a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
So it's perfect. Feel nothing.
I don't either. I have COVID brain, so I'm like in a fog.
Yeah, tell me about that. Is that lifted? You said you felt like you were in a fog.
Well, the biggest thing is, so listen, I was vaccinated, I was boosted. I'm guessing that helped me not, have as severe symptoms as I would have otherwise. I don't know. But the fatigue sets in, and you just I remember one day, I think the day I took my test, and it was like the peak of feeling shitty. I was sitting on the couch, and then I remember I told Megan, I said, hey, the lights are going out in my head. I'm just going to go to sleep. My head just was so heavy, and I just kind of went out.
The lights are going out.
I said, the lights are going out. I'm going down.
Oh, wow.
But after that, it's hard to get back physically. And then, maybe the whole thing, you're just tired. You're over it. I personally hate this time of year. I hate the winter. I hate the cold. Mm-hmm. It's fucking depressing. Yeah. It's dark at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. I was a little worried. I went to Hawaii. I went to Oahu. I didn't even go to my usual destination, which, all things considered, is less crowded. I mean, Waikiki. I was in the heart of Waikiki. I was on Waikiki Beach, but I wasn't close to anybody at any time. But in public spaces, not on the beach certainly, but in the hotel and stuff, people were wearing masks, and it's they're pretty strict about it over there. And as far as people coming there, I mean, you have to be vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you have to have a clear test. If you are vaccinated, then you don't have to test before you go.
But now they're talking about possibly requiring a booster to go to Hawaii.
Well, it's what they're calling. They talked about that when I was there, and so I would have qualified anyway.
Because you were within the 6 months?
Well, because I'd had the booster. So to be considered fully vaccinated, I don't think they were requiring the booster. So let's say that you wanted to go to Hawaii, you'd had your vaccinations, but 6 months had not elapsed, and I don't think they were requiring a negative test. You were still considered fully vaccinated. But I think they're going to be considered fully vaccinated and not require a test. I think you're going to have the booster.
Well, see, that's really where this shit's going crazy because, and this brings in the political argument about this. What is considered fully vaccinated? I was reading a lot around Christmas and New Year's about the possibility of the CDC changing the definition of fully vaccinated, like you just said. And I think even Fauci came out and said, we're talking about that. There are other nations that I think have already made that declaration, like Spain, I want to say. But at the end of the day, I mean, a couple of things come to mind. Number one, it's fucking things over. It's got to be over. And you should agree with me because your buddy Bill Gates has said so. After this Omicron, it's over.
That it's over?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I am hopeful that the increase in transmissibility is the sign that the virus is fighting for its life, that it was starting to burn out, and evidently this is not uncommon that the virus mutates to a less severe but more transmissible version, so it can spread faster, which it certainly has.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. I mean, I'm also hearing that probably the population centers on the east and west coast and Florida, these places are probably over the peak.
Right.
Of it.
I think so too.
Possibly in the middle of the country where there aren't as many people and Omicron hasn't actually even gotten there yet or much, that they may yet see the peak, but because the population is so much less, that might not be that.
But you don't care about that.
Well,
those people.
Here's the thing: they don't have as many hospitals, so for them to, here's the real problem. So people aren't getting all that sick from it, so that's a good thing. The problem is the reason why that's not a serious reason for celebration is because the hospitals are full. So when you see hospitals canceling elective surgery, which is where they make all the money, that means they're full. I mean, they don't do that unless they have to. And if anything else was to happen, or the effects of that are just unknown. And when the hospitals are full and there are no beds, especially in critical care, that's a problem.
But have we not learned nothing over the last 2 years? Like, remember when in New York, and I think even here on the West Coast, we brought in the naval ships with hospital beds, and they weren't even used, but the fear was we're going to need these. Mm-hmm. And now 2 years later, we really haven't done anything, to my knowledge, to address the lack of available hospital beds. But
this isn't China. We're not going to build 300
Why not?
hospitals in 2 weeks.
But think about that. I know it's not 2 weeks; it's 2 years, and I get it. This takes time.
It's not going to happen.
But look at the bigger issue.
They haven't built. No hospital has been built in this time that I'm aware of.
Isn't that a crime? Whose fault is that?
I mean, hospitals just don't get built out of thin air.
Well, all these billionaires are giving away money. Bill Gates is the leader of the fear mongering. How come he's not building hospitals?
I think the title of our last episode was something about billionaires, and we had talked about is it a good idea for us to leave the world's problems to billionaires to solve?
Right.
And a perfect example of how that doesn't work. I mean, they solve the shit they care about. They want to go to the moon or whatever. He wants to go to Mars. That's what he's working on.
I mean, if we build hospitals on Mars, that's cool.
Well, he's not building hospitals. I mean,
not yet.
He could, I'm sure he could build a couple hospitals for the cost of one joyride up to the edge of space and back.
But think about it. Just even without COVID, what we have in front of us here is an aging population, especially in this country, right? I mean, the amount of the baby boomer generation, your generation, the people that are retiring, needing medical care, going on to the afterworld or whatever you want to say, the nice term to say, going up to the stars is how my daughter would say it.
The people with the money.
As your generation needs medical care and access to hospital beds, this is a known number that this country has been aware of for I don't know how many decades. When you just map it out and say what's going to happen when this population ages out and needs care, how come we haven't addressed that?
I don't know.
Who can we blame for this?
Well, we don't give a shit about old people. I mean,
that's true.
This isn't Asia or something where they care, about their extended family. Well, it's everybody's on their own. I mean, that's something people need to think about, right? You can get through the early years, the middle years and stuff but when you get old, if you do not have a plan, if you do not have money, if you don't have savings, if you don't have 401ks or some kind of provision, I mean, it's going to be rough. And there's a lot of people that are one paycheck away from homelessness. And if that's you and you're 50, you're fucked.
So what do you think the plan is? I mean, you don't have to disclose your personal plan, but that people would just bring in care, home care, and they wouldn't need access to hospitals because they're just going to, live in their homes. What is it called? Hospice? When you're like dying and they bring in.
Well, that's when you're dying.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God! Here we can laugh about hospice. That's so wrong.
Why is it wrong? If we can't laugh about the world's problems, what's the point?
Yeah, I actually know somebody that's in hospice right now. It's just not a peer, just somebody's relative. But I don't know. The hospital thing is what it is. Hospitals are privately run for-profit institutions for the most part, and I don't think that. I mean, it's a free market situation, so you would hope. I mean, under normal circumstances, without a pandemic, I think that we have the hospitals we need, right? Then there's no real provision for having hospital space that you won't need 90% of the time.
But is that true when you look at the age of the population and the amount of people within that group, and you kind of take it 5, 10, 15 years from now, will that still be true that we have the amount of hospitals that we need?
No hospital expertise on my part. I mean, I don't really know. I mean,
I don't either.
I think that the hospitals are full of people that are coming in for various things. Here's what I'm hearing. They're coming in for things and they're finding out they have COVID,
or they're getting COVID in the hospital.
I haven't heard that as much because those protocols are pretty intense, even at all the medical. I've had I don't know. I think I've probably had a few more medical procedures of late than you have.
I would say so.
And it's like they don't let you. Like even yesterday, Debbie couldn't. She had to go home. I mean, it was going to be like 3 hours, so she couldn't wait in the waiting room. She'd go home and then call her and then come back, and because they don't want people in the, they're trying not to spread it around. So, are they getting into the hospitals? I don't know. What I'm hearing is that people are coming in for something and finding out they have COVID, and then, but that doesn't necessarily mean they get hospitalized either. So,
right.
I mean, they're in there for a back surgery or something, and hey, guess what? You're positive for COVID. So, I think this is contributing to the amount of cases, but evidently the amount of people that need to be hospitalized in critical care is a little bit less. But they're evidently they're saying the hospitals are saying they're packed.
I know. I don't know why.
And the people working in the hospitals are saying that they're just completely exhausted. I mean, for them, it's been 2 years really without a break. It's ebbed and flowed a little bit, but for hospital workers. And here's the thing. While these hospitals are treating COVID patients, they're not doing elective surgeries. They're not doing the things that bring the hospitals the real profit. And so the hospital workers or stuff are not enjoying the rising pay rates that most of the rest of the workforce is.
Well, who's enjoying that? That's getting eroded by inflation.
Well, I was going to say they're not only are they not enjoying rising pay rates because the hospitals are going broke, they're also get to enjoy the inflation that those workers that did enjoy some kind of pay raise, that's, but it's not fully being eroded, but certainly it would be great if they weren't losing some percentage of what they've gained, but they're still ahead.
If you are a homeless person and you get hit by a truck and the paramedics drive you to the hospital, are they going to turn you down for care?
My God, where do you come up with this shit?
I don't know.
If you're injured and taken to a hospital, they have to treat you. So that's how that.
Are they going to dig through his pockets and look? And
if they have emergency trauma, I mean, if you take them to an elder care hospital,
they're
not going to treat you. It's like, hey, we don't do that.
Can you even call them homeless anymore in California? Isn't there a new term? I'm being serious now. I think there is a new term for,
I don't know. I saw the governor out on. So I know that we're an international success with this podcast, so not everybody is probably aware of this. But during the time I was in Hawaii, it came to light that the railroad cars, the freight cars that carry sea containers, which have all of our consumer goods in them, right? So they'll stack 2 or 3 high sea containers on a flatbed rail car. And that gets hauled around the country on rail a lot rather than, trucks take them too. But so they have really flimsy locks on those doors. And they're really just numbered tags. They're not really padlocks or anything like that. So
yeah, you can break them off pretty easily.
These freight train things have a lot of stops as they hook up and release cars and do things. So in L.A., in California, in L.A., in Santa Ana, L.A., I think, there has been this area where when those trains, and these trains are miles long, right? When those trains stop, then I guess bands of criminals descend onto the train tracks, snip off these shitty little closures on the doors, and tear the shit out of them.
They're not criminals. They're just in need of basic supplies, right?
Have you seen the pictures on TV?
I know. I'm giving you shit.
I think it went national. So yesterday, the governor was out there with his fucking mask on, in his tight-fitting T-shirt,
in his bomber jacket,
shoveling shit off the railroad tracks, talking about how they're going to clean this mess up and stop this from happening.
How are they going to stop it?
I don't know. They're
going to shoot the homeless people?
It seems like a no-brainer. I don't know what the problem is. Well, I do kind of know what the problem is. So here's the problem from what's the name of the rail company? Pacific.
Is it Southern Pacific?
Southern Pacific, right? They said that they have called the police many, many times. Thousands of people have been arrested for doing this. Virtually none of them end up in jail because the laws are currently set up so that crimes under $900.
Well, yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, so this is the problem. The people that do this regularly, there's no real consequence for them, and they all know it. I mean, this looks like a disaster site, and it's just
I've seen the photos.
So ridiculous.
And this is Newsom's fault and his party's fault because they made these laws in California. And that's the other thing, too.
I'm not here to argue with you about that.
I know, and we usually I don't get a lot of pushback from you on California issues because of that, but there were stories nationally. Our stories made national news about, I think that's considered petty theft, the under $900
I'm not hearing
thing.
about it happening anywhere else in the country, are you?
Well, there was, which nobody cares about, but there were high-profile stories about luxury goods stores, in places like Chicago, I think, and in New York where, luxury handbags and I don't know, whatever else people were stealing.
Can't you see Pelosi out there on Rodeo Drive
Yes.
with an Uzi taking out the shoplifter?
You think she would love to, right? Of course, she could never say that or even fantasize about it, but she would love to.
So have you been following politics, even though, we've kind of not been
How can you
about it?
not? Of course.
I know. It's really...
Well, here we are a year in
Yeah.
to Mr. Biden's presidency.
Mm-hmm.
We've just had the anniversary of the January 6th, 1/6. I don't know what the official, it doesn't have the same ring as 9/11.
Yeah, it's
Is it Jan 6? Is it 1/6?
What are they calling it? 1/6? No, what do they call it?
666, the number of the beast.
No.
What is it? What are we calling it?
Well, it's been. This has been an incredible time for politics, right? So I'm going to just jump into this and see if you heard about any of this. This is stuff I heard last night. Me personally, not buying into all the criticism of President Biden and all that stuff.
Any of it?
Not really. I mean, everything he does isn't perfect, but it's incredible. I mean, for all the people that say that everything is biased against the right and the whole all the media is liberal biased, they just shit talk them constantly for virtually no reason at all. Sometimes there are things, but it's not nearly what they make it out to be. But so whatever, for me, that's kind of the equalizer. But here's the thing that I want to talk about for a minute. Have you heard everything that's been going on with the Trump family and all of the investigations and so forth going on with them? Trump lost his he went to Supreme Court to stop release from the National Archives of a bunch of information that the Jan 6,
right?
Yeah, the Jan 6 Commission has subpoenaed, and he lost that. They said, nope.
Was that what he was claiming, executive privilege?
He was trying to, yeah, but they said, look, there's no privilege there. So that's over. So that they've and that's going to have an effect on the rest of the goombas lined up. So there's that. So that's a tremendous amount of information that minimally the Jan 6 Commission is going to have and exploit publicly, right? We're coming up for public hearings and stuff on that. Then on another front, Ivanka Trump has been subpoenaed, and in a public-facing document, the commission in telling her why they want her to testify, they put out a whole lot about what they already know, and it appears they know a lot more than we thought they did.
Like what?
Well, stuff about. So Ivanka was in the room. They've been General Kelly has provided them with a lot of testimony about what was happening on January 6th that day regarding people contacting Trump and efforts to get him to try to do something to stop the mess at the Capitol. And Ivanka was in the room with him the whole time, according to Kelly. And so there's
what does that mean?
There's a lot of information about, what they're trying to discern is what was told to the president, what did he know about it, what were his responses, and none of it's good, right? And so they want her. Kelly's already given the testimony, so they're telling her, hey, General Kelly, here's what General Kelly has already told us, and we'd like you to confirm that this is how you saw it, that you're aware of this. This is what you saw. So, I'm not going to repeat it all here, but there's quite a bit of information about what was going on that day, and so that speaks directly to his complicitness.
Well, let's unpack that, because you mentioned Ivanka.
Well, there's one more thing.
Okay, go. Yeah.
There's one more thing, and then we can unpack it all. And then my favorite news yesterday was that it does appear. So I don't know if you followed the story about how 6 or 7 states sent in lists of fake electors to the National Archive.
Not familiar with this story.
Okay, so here's the story, right? The states certify the election, then they have their electors sign documents, and they're sent in, and that's the stuff that Pence was supposed to do.
The documents themselves?
Yeah, the documents from the real electors, right? So there was this. So it became apparent. It has been apparent that from 6 or 7 states, documents were received, fakes were received with names of Trump electors, not the actual electors from those states, but fake electors that were certifying the election for Trump were sent to the National Archive. It was forgery, sent in from several states, and they're trying to figure out how this all happened. Well, yesterday it was revealed that they have already proven that Giuliani was given the task of
verifying this,
of organizing this whole operation. So that's the third shoe to drop yesterday.
Okay, so hang on.
Kicks his ass. Ivanka is being pressured to testify, and Giuliani is being blamed for this. This is probably a pretty criminal situation.
So on the elector thing, though, is that you said there's a total of 7 states, right?
I'm showing Travis on my phone. I've got a phone call from something that's being identified as a telemarketer.
If you're going to call somebody, you don't advertise yourself as a telemarketer. Can we thank? Is this?
I should have answered it and put it on the air.
I know we should have.
Yeah.
Unless that's your code name for somebody that you have stored in your phone.
Telemarketer.
Who are you hiding in your phone under the name telemarketer?
Nobody. That's funny. Anyway, those are the 3 things.
So electors, right? That's interesting because most states don't have, if I understand this right, most states don't have a large number of electoral votes to begin with. California being the largest of, what do we have, 50?
We have a lot, yeah,
50, something like that.
50, yeah.
So if a state, do you know one of the names of the states?
Well, Georgia.
Okay, Georgia. Georgia has what, 11, I want to say?
Okay.
It's close to that.
Right.
It's not exactly right. Let's say they have 11. Are you saying that what has been revealed is that Georgia maybe sent in, 5 that said Trump, but those really should have been Biden, something like that?
Georgia sent in the names and the paperwork for the actual real electors, right, that were going to have to cast their votes for Joe Biden because he won the state. Rudy Giuliani organized an effort among Republican operatives to forge their names on similar paperwork, send that in as well, and requesting Pence to count them instead of the actual. So here's the thing. They were hoping Pence would then count the alternative list, the forged names of the Trump electors, instead of the real ones. So of course, he declined to do that because he doesn't want to go to prison.
Wait a minute. So this is interesting, too.
Yeah.
So do we think that Pence was aware of this forgery? So go all the way back to, remember what Trump was saying, his Hail Mary was that my guy, Pence, is there, and he will do the right thing, or we're calling on him to, quote unquote, do the right thing. And what, of course, Trump was referring to is Pence not to certify the election for Biden. So it sounds, maybe it's a little bit of a conspiracy, but it sounds to me like maybe Pence was aware of these fake electoral documents and chose to not acknowledge them or certify them. But if he knew about it and didn't say anything, then he's complicit too.
Who knows? The possible criminal action that this represents for this scheme that Giuliani evidently spearheaded is a criminal conspiracy to commit fraud, and to try to, change
but I have
the
to
election
say,
outcome.
I think from what I see with Giuliani, and he's entered this phase of his life where he clearly does not give a shit about anything. I mean, seriously. With that whole thing with what was that thing with Borat when he was caught in a hotel room, you know, getting jerked off, and then he's got this hair dye dripping down his face. He just clearly doesn't care about anything.
It's been a great year for him.
Yeah.
Well, so the other thing with Ivanka and what the January 6th Commission has released yesterday in public facing documents regarding their I'm going to call it a subpoena. I'm not sure if it is.
I think that's the right word.
Or their request for her to testify. They talked about a phone call that Kelly told them about that Trump had with Pence on January 6th, telling him that he needs to, man up and do the right thing, and that if he doesn't, then he picked the wrong guy. Right. And 4 years ago.
But who cares? The job is over.
So here's the thing. What they're trying to establish is Kelly saying, hey, this is the conversation I heard. They're saying, hey, Ivanka, Kelly's saying you were in the room and heard at least that side of the same side of the conversation that Kelly heard. Can you confirm that? And so this is what he was calling Pence about, to tell him, hey, do the right thing. And just because here's what they're putting together: a giant conspiracy to overthrow the election. That's what they're talking about here. They've had the meetings in the hotel rooms. They've got all this testimony. I mean, it's starting to really shape up.
Let me ask it this way, and I don't know that I've ever asked you this question, but we've talked about it in reference to things like Nixon and Watergate and various tapes that were recorded that have, pretty incriminating.
Yeah. There are no more tapes.
Yeah. Do you think that a sitting president should have I'm not saying a in-person conversation recorded, but should they have every phone call recorded if they're going to make an outbound call either from the White House or on a White House cell phone?
No, I don't think every. I mean, but I think in the past the process was calls of importance, calls with other state leaders, things like that would be, other people would be on the call and transcripts would be made, and, that would be for everybody's protection. And then other people would be read into those calls and so forth. So what we didn't see happen with a lot of stuff with Trump was that didn't happen on a lot of stuff. But he did manage, so here's the other thing. The Georgia, this is a Georgia county district attorney. I can't remember the county, who has requested a special grand jury be convened in Georgia regarding the
fake electors?
Regarding the phone call. No, this is regarding the phone call that Trump made to the Republican Secretary of State asking him for 11,780 votes.
Right.
The phone call that we've all heard because it was recorded and then released to the public. So we've all heard that.
What's the purpose of the grand jury for that?
That's Ratzenberger, right? So here's the problem.
Wasn't he on Cheers?
No. So here's the problem, right? The Secretary of State, all the normal agencies in Georgia that would typically investigate or prosecute that phone call are involved because Trump, the Attorney General was involved, Ratzenberger, the Secretary of State was involved. So this county prosecutor is not, their office is not involved. So they're the only ones left in the state that can investigate. And so she has called for a special grand jury to be convened, not just a regular grand jury, a special grand jury. And in Georgia, what that means is they're going to convene a grand jury. They're going to put a judge along with that grand jury, that they're going to take away the 2-month time limit that a grand jury has. And this special grand jury will have subpoena power, which the district attorney is just being stonewalled by everybody involved. Ratzenberger won't comply. And so the special grand jury with subpoena power, then they won't have a choice. Then this district attorney's office can gather up all the information regarding that call and all the efforts of Trump to illegally try to change the results of the election in Georgia. They can compile all that. A grand jury can compile all the evidence. Then when that's done, right? Then and so the judge that's attached to this special grand jury, if say Ratzenberger says I'm not complying, it'll be that judge that will oversee the hearing that says, yeah, you're going to comply, you're going to go to jail. That's the purpose. That's standard for this. This grand jury will not return an indictment. This grand jury will only compile the evidence, and once this district attorney feels that all the evidence that can be compiled has been compiled, then if they think they've got what they need, then they will turn it over to an actual grand jury who can then indict the people involved, namely Donald Trump.
It sounds like an incredible waste of time. But here's the way I see this. This is an incredible conspiracy theory that might have legs. I mean, if what you're saying is that there's evidence that they can uncover that might actually show that Trump and his election campaign, his re-election campaign, deliberately and were part of an attempt to
put it this way, conspiratorially.
Yeah, right. But here's where I'm going with this. And tell me if you understand this logic. If the Trump campaign was deliberately trying to overturn the election, right? The same thing that
which is what they were trying to do,
right? Yes. And everything that you said about the fake electors and Giuliani's role in it, and whether or not Trump knew about it, in their mind, that was their strategy to win. Mm-hmm. So this is what they thought was going to happen. And all the way up into January 6th, when Trump called upon Pence to, quote unquote, do the right thing and in his mind count the fake electoral votes that he knew were there, and he could only he could know they were there because he was part of it to begin with.
Right.
If that is true, doesn't that also kind of separate him from the allegations that he was responsible for the attack itself? In other words, your word, the favorite word of the Democrats, sedition, and what's the other word about overthrowing the Capitol?
What do they call it?
One of those other words.
Yeah, I know.
To me, I don't.
Insurrection.
Insurrection. Thank you. That's Pelosi's favorite word.
Insurrection.
Which, of course, I don't agree with because I do not think that was a deliberate attempt to take over the American government and say you're not in charge anymore. We're in charge. But really where I'm going with this is if the Trump conspiracy is true and he tried to organize stealing the election fraudulently, then wouldn't he then be removed from the insurrection charge? Because, why would he have orchestrated an attack if he thought his people on the inside were going to get him the victory by counting the fraudulent votes? The two things seem like they are in conflict with one another to me. I have COVID brain, so I'm not doing a great job explaining that.
Yeah,
but
well, I don't think that. What is happening here is we are watching the entire conspiracy of the Trump campaign et al. To overturn the legitimate election, the 2020 general election, and those are criminal acts, and I think that they're well on their way to proving a conspiracy. An actual conspiracy, an actual plan was put into motion. And so they didn't overturn the election because the plan failed. But the crime will be the conspiracy, not overturning the election.
Perhaps. And like I said, there could be some legs here. This is intriguing because I don't know all the details. Yeah. But they're two different things because they're two different crimes, if you want to call it that.
Right, which I don't think that. So let's say that they can prove that there was an organized conspiracy of the Trump campaign, including Donald Trump and Giuliani and everybody else that was an actor in this process. I don't see how that has an effect one way or the other about whether he bears any responsibility for sending those motherfuckers down to the Capitol. What's coming out in this investigation is that this also broke yesterday, that apparently when Trump told everybody to go to the Capitol and, hey, I'm going to go with you and we're going to go down to the after the rally, he fully intended to go with them, and it was only intervention by there's a far right caucus in the Republican Party. So it was only because of pleas from members of that far right caucus. There's a name for it. That if Trump did go down with that group to the Capitol that day, that he would be, and this is a quote, driving a stake into the heart of our republic. And that's the only reason he didn't go. So not only was he responsible for them going down there, he fully intended to lead them down there.
I think it would have been better for him, his eventual outcome, if he had gone. And here's why.
No, did he be in jail already?
I don't know about that, because think about it.
The sitting president of the United States leading a rabble down to the Capitol to try to interfere with the certification of the election. I mean, I wish he'd gone.
Yeah, but listen, we've talked a lot about this. Yeah. I'm on record as saying I certainly think he bears some responsibility, whether or not he orchestrated it, he knew about it. All of that is up for debate, but I certainly think he bears some responsibility, no doubt about it. Did he actually, we don't know what was in Trump's mind. Did he want those people to break into that building and do what they did? I probably not. I don't know that I could buy that.
Well, we'll see when the leader of the Oath Keepers turns state witness, and they've arrested him.
But even then, are you going to believe this Oath Keepers guy over Trump?
Well, here's the good news.
Not credible as Trump is.
700 arrests or more plus so far by the Justice Department of the pieces of shit that went down there. They're not done by any stretch of the imagination. There's been a lot made out of the fact that many of these people have received, relatively, light sentences, months in jail, or
the one
suspended sentences.
Didn't the one dude get like 5 years? The guy with the horns.
Some people have, yeah. But here's the thing: Merrick Garland came out a couple of weeks ago and kind of cleared this up. Hey, and this is the way it works. They go after all the small ones first to get them out of the way, and then they're going to go after the bigger ones, the more serious cases that they're like the Oath Keepers. So they look for a lot more prosecutions by the Justice Department on this. Merrick Garland seems like a puss, right? And you're like, what's he doing? Why isn't he doing more? The guy, is this the guy that put McVeigh away, right? Is this the guy that went after the Unabomber? I mean, he knows what he's doing, right? And I think we're just seeing the beginning of this, right?
But here, go back to my little.
Whether it's a year, 3 years.
Oh yeah, no,
it doesn't matter.
Of course not. But if Trump had gone down there that day, number one, I think that there maybe would be a 50-50 chance that people would have broken into the Capitol. I'm just saying. Let's say he goes down there and he's got a bullhorn and they're out there shouting, and then they start, charging the doors and breaking the glass, right? What would Trump have done at that point? Would he have, shouted at the bullhorn? If he's out there on TV going, "Go get him," okay, of course, that now he's really incriminating himself. You could really haul him off to jail right then and there. Or if he says, this is not what this is about, stand down, stand proud, my people, then that would give him a chance to say, this is not what we're about.
You know what's coming with the what information is coming with the Supreme Court decision the other day on the not to block the National Archive information that the committee is requesting. Do you remember hearing about the 1 week video message he put out 18 hours later?
Yeah.
Remember, "You're very special. We love you." Right? Well, apparently, as big a piece of shit, as terrible as that was, there are outtakes.
Oh, we got to get these.
Well, they're coming. This is this is part of the information that the Supreme Court has said, yeah, no, we're not blocking this. So that's coming. I mean, we are going to see outtakes of his because he didn't want to stop him, Travis.
Well, do you remember the other thing that came out was, I'm not sure if it was Donald Jr. or Eric, one of those Trumps. What came out was, I think he was texting, what was it, Hannity or something? Mm-hmm. A lot of the Fox News hosts, and saying, referring to his dad, he has got to get out in front of this. He has to denounce this immediately. Right. They were talking amongst themselves about
the broad. What's her name?
Ingram, I think, right?
Yeah,
Laura Ingram.
Yeah, Ingram and Hannity.
Yeah,
and Tucker, right? All of them. were saying that right until it didn't happen. And
we're saying that he needed to denounce it.
Stop this! You got to stop this! You got to get out in front of this. This is a mistake. And then, of course, because they're all sycophantic lunatics, they
maybe because that's the right thing to say and do.
Even Mark Meadows, a piece of shit minority speaker, was like, well, Trump certainly is responsible for this until he realized what he'd done and how people were not going to turn in mass against Trump. And then he went down. Then he went down to who's this guy? The minority speaker. What's his name? I always get his name wrong. Kevin
McCarthy.
Right? That's not the black comedian.
Who's that?
Kevin Hart.
Oh, Hart. Don't make this a racist thing. The black comedian. What's the matter with you?
It's perfectly fine.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So here's what I think is interesting is if what we now know is there's evidence of people within the Trump team saying he should denounce this. Mm-hmm. If that message got back to Trump and he said, fuck that, they're doing exactly what I want them to do, or no, I'm not going to do that. That to me, I think it will be an interesting twist to find out his reaction to it. Because it sounds to me it's very unlikely that he didn't know those messages were coming into him. And for whatever reason, his kids are his sounding board. He seems to at least listen to them. I don't know that he always takes their advice, but he does hear them. Mm-hmm. And Ivanka in particular. Mm-hmm. So if they're coming to him saying, you've got to do something about this, and then his reaction is what we got 18 hours later, right, which wasn't enough. What transpired between the attack and that message? Was it Trump having a tantrum saying, I'm not doing this, this is bullshit, they did exactly what I want, which to me, really where I'm going with this is that more directly ties him to the event and his role and responsibility in it.
Well, here's the thing. General Kelly has testified that, because everybody there was failing to get Trump to do anything to stop this fucking mess, they went to Ivanka, right, to try to get her to convince him. And she failed as well. So they want to know what transpired between her and Trump when she tried to get him to do something to stop it. This is the testimony they want to elicit from her. Whether she's going to give it or not, I don't know.
I thought she already said she won't comply.
Well, she's, the jury's out on whether you can ignore a congressional subpoena, right?
Well, you can, and then if you do, don't you get thrown in jail?
Well, here's the thing: if they subpoena her, and she doesn't comply, then they will refer to the Justice Department.
Isn't she busy dealing with another subpoena? Didn't they all get subpoenaed in New York for whatever their financial fraud case is?
All of that is going on, right? All of that is going on. And
what subpoena takes precedence?
That's all criminal.
I know. That's what I'm saying. She literally is busy dealing with another subpoena.
It's so good. These are the good days. These are the good times. I don't care who goes to jail or what. The truth of it is that these processes are bringing the information of what really happened out into the public. And so I don't need convictions or anything else. And here's the thing. If there wasn't stuff in those archives that Trump is afraid to be released, why would he have taken it to the Supreme Court?
I think that's an obvious statement, because conversely, if there were, evidence in those archives that would, prove his innocence or make him look better, then he would want it released.
That's right. And here's what I'm going to say, my final word on this whole thing about these people that are not complying with, that are not talking to the commission, is that if you don't have something to hide, if you haven't done something wrong, then why would you be fighting these subpoenas? Just go tell the truth.
Right.
The only sole reason that they fight this is because they know they're all fucking screwed. Or they know that the information they have will end up screwing President Trump. And so I have no idea why anybody in their right fucking mind would have any allegiance to that piece of shit. I can't understand it. I'll never understand it. We've talked about it, for many reasons. But
what is the end game, let's say, with the Jan 6 commission? Procedurally,
to write a report.
Right, that's it, right?
Right.
And so like you said, you don't care if there's any convictions or whatever, but there really can't be that can come out of this, right? It's just literally a factual report that will be logged in history for us to learn from, but that's it.
Well, listen. So let's go back to what was the special prosecutor for Trump? Forgotten his name already.
Yes, Barr.
No. Well, Barr was the attorney general.
Yeah, that's right.
The corrupt attorney general.
You haven't said corrupt in a while.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, when the conversation swings back to the corrupt,
when you have an opportunity to throw it in.
So what was the guy's name? Jesus Christ, we lived with this thing for 2 years. The Mueller report.
Yes.
So here's the truth of the matter, gang. If we did not have a corrupt attorney general, a sycophantic piece of crap named Bill Barr, in place when the Mueller report was released, the Justice Department would have taken the information in that report and then proceeded to do a criminal investigation and file charges. There are at least 10 different things in the Mueller report that Trump could be charged with, criminal things that Trump could be charged with. So that didn't happen because Bill Barr just did not do his job. Now,
but if the evidence exists, why can't the Justice Department pick it up?
Well, there's a lot to that question, right? And maybe they will. I mean, we don't know what Merrick Garland has been in place as the Attorney General for, I think it's right at a year. It can't be much more. If it's even that long, I don't know how long it took to get him, in place. But there is no. I mean, he can pursue any criminal investigation he sees fit. But we're talking about the Jan 6 Commission. What can happen? Well, once they compile all this evidence with testimony under oath, if this report then shows that criminal activities happen, then the Justice Department can then pursue those avenues and go about building cases and charging people. So,
but they also don't need a report if there is other evidence that they believe would get them a conviction, correct?
They don't need the report, but the report is being done. And so there's a couple of reasons why a committee like that does a report. They don't have the ability to charge, but they can certainly refer this to the Justice Department for criminal investigation, which I am 100% positive they will.
Maybe, but it seems to me like if there really is a smoking gun, that's the way I look at it, then just get on with it already. Because you and I have talked about this, and I think you expressed that you thought the strategy, at least, the goal, the hope from, say, the Democrats was to prevent Trump from running again in the 24 election. Of course, if there is a conviction, if there's shit that comes out that can land him in jail, that's a bonus. But really what we got to do is prove that there was criminal acts so that he cannot serve as president.
No, I don't agree with that assessment. That's not, I mean, my hope of the impeachment process that failed, I mean, the impeachment went through, but the conviction was not forthcoming. That would have stopped him from being able to run again. Yeah, that was all I wanted from that. Didn't care whether he went to prison or not. Now I think that because this is what the Trump campaign et al. Have done here is try to destroy American democracy. I mean, this is criminal all the way around, and it is seditious, right? And I think that evidence is going to come out. I think.
But what's the end game? Are we going to throw a 75-year-old ex-president in jail? I mean, maybe we will, but we won't do it if he's 85. If it takes 10 years to get this shit done.
Him and Giuliani and
who was older, I think, right?
And the lawyer that was up there. If you look at the tape of the rally they had that day on January 6th, there was a guy with a big like tan coat with a fur collar and a stupid cowboy hat. He's the main lawyer that put together the conspiracy to overturn the election. That guy, the stupid fuck that got pardoned, Stone, so many people, Bannon. There's a whole bunch of people that Donald Trump Jr. There's just a whole bunch of people that can end up in jail over this, and I hope they all fucking go to jail and rot there.
And maybe they will. I mean, is this one of those things where, essentially, you uncover the evidence of a crime for a particular individual, and then you get them tried and convicted, and then you just keep going, or is that kind of it? In other words, like in a regular criminal trial, you can't be tried again right after you.
If you want this to go faster, then appeal to the assholes that are not coming in and testifying and are delaying the process, because their plan is to delay this until they think they can take power over, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's fine. We get it. That's their plan, and the Democrats' plan is to get this wrapped up and and make it available for the justice. Hey, at any minute, as the January 6th, I mean, who knows? There was information that was released to the public yesterday in this appeal to Ivanka Trump that might have been news to Merrick Garland. I mean, today they might be working on the very criminal investigations that you're concerned about.
Yeah, for me, at the end of the day, I just want to know the truth. Right, I think exactly. We all deserve to know the truth. And the amount of information that the government, does not share with the American people, I think is a problem in this country. Everything from aliens to JFK to this.
Some things are, I'm sure there are going to be aspects of this that are at some level classified, but I don't think in general, I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, I think what we're looking at here is a conspiracy by the Trump campaign to overturn the fair and free 2020 general election. I mean, and if the investigation by the January 6th committee turns up that information and the testimony that's given to this committee, and if they put together a body of evidence that verifies that, then I think the people responsible should be prosecuted. That's it. The government goes on, the elections go on.
I just don't understand why Trump would want an attack on the Capitol and all that shit if he knew in his mind he had an ace in the hole of these fake electors that were going to get him the victory. Like, what he was basically saying is, hey, I've got a fucking magnet in the roulette ball, and so I know it's always going to land on my number.
The criminal conspiracy to overturn the election started when he lost. Actually started before that.
Is that what you've read?
Yeah, that's what you're going to see. The investigation is going to turn
going into that.
Everything did not
before
happen.
November the 3rd is what you've read, basically, that they thought we're just going to see what happens and we think we're going to win this on our own.
I think that the people involved in the conspiracy started working on contingency plans. This would be Bannon and all the rest of these guys, long before the election. And so the fact that on January 6th, Trump held a rally and then loosed those lunatics, and leading up to that rally, how do I put this? What you're saying kind of sounds like, well, why would he do this if he had this ace in the hole? Pence was not going to do it. By January 6th, it was obvious that Pence was not playing along with the game. He wasn't part of the conspiracy, and he wasn't playing along. And so I think that, he loosed that crowd on the Capitol in a last-ditch effort to try to delay the certification of the election so that he could continue spreading the big lie and all the other shit.
Was
Illegally pressuring state election officials. Travis, just to serious this up for a second, I don't know if you've heard this story about the election workers in Georgia, that there was a mother that was an election worker in Georgia that they were having a hard time getting enough people to work the election. She got her daughter to come and work it. And then when all the bullshit about the fraud and all the fake shit started up, Trump named her like 20 times by name at his rallies on TV. You know that they had to move out of their house. They had to hide for 6 months. I mean, the criminal shit that's gone on here is just beyond the pale.
What was the purpose of naming her?
Because it just, so they were saying that she was, because there was some tape taken from outside the building where you could see her inside, doing her job. And because he was making it all up, saying, "Hey, here's tape of the votes being fraudulently, and this is the person."
This is the counting part.
Yeah.
Well, what's the is that a crime to release those people's names?
Fuck. I mean, how she hasn't? I mean, I'm assuming there's a lawsuit in process.
I mean, perhaps I'm just asking a question legitimately, though. Are you not supposed to release their names?
Death threats. People went to
I
her
get
house,
it. I
right?
understand.
They sent an operative to meet with her and her daughter, claiming that they had information. The worker and her daughter said, "Well, we want to meet at the police station." So there's film of this operative from the Trump campaign trying to get her, going in and telling her, and this is all recorded, I've already heard it all, "Hey, some information is going to come out. You're going to be at risk. This is going to, your freedom is at risk. We're here to help you. You just have to tell us what happened with the fraudulent counting and this and that." It was a trick to try to get it just all of it.
I understand. But is that a crime, though, to release someone's name? I mean, here's where I keep pressuring you on it. Of all the actual crimes that took place, is that one of them? Because there's so many inappropriate things Trump does. Yes, of course, I get that.
Yeah, this was. I mean, for me, this is one of the most egregious parts of it, because he took someone, a volunteer election worker, and made up a lie about her and then spread it out to millions.
I get
of people.
it. I understand.
Death threats. She wasn't safe in her own house. So what are you asking me? Is that a crime? Yeah, it's a crime.
Is it?
Of course it is. Yeah, it's called slander, right? And if you put somebody in danger,
what did he say about her? That she was burying counts and ditching counts for him?
Yeah, and that her and her daughter, and he used their names and identified them at long after it was already shown that it was nonsense. Everything he said about it was a lie. So hey, listen. I mean, I get your question. I guess.
No, I literally am asking it in the form of a question, because there is such a thing in certain aspects of whether or not you have a reasonable right to privacy. I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
If you are working in a high profile job where you're counting ballots for a national election, do you have a reasonable right to privacy? I don't know. That's why I asked.
Of course.
That term is in my head.
Yeah, of course.
But listen, the media, I think on Melania's request way back when, granted the Trumps a decent level of privacy over their youngest son. What was his name? Remember the Barron? Yes. Right, because he's a kid and everything.
Baron von Richthofen.
Everything you think about the Trumps, but he's innocent. And so now, and Trump doesn't do the same thing for somebody who's a volunteer election campaign worker. I get it. It's totally inappropriate. I'm there with you. I was asking if it was legitimately a crime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the least. I mean, and
right.
As bad as that is, maybe the least. So it's just been a lot. I think it's a lot of stuff that's coming out over a long period of time. A lot's been made of the year mark. The first.
That was in poor taste, I thought.
What?
The big January 6th commemoration from the Democrats, and it was a big thing in the media. And I get it; it was only a year in and whatever, but I think they should be touting other things.
What was it? What are you talking about?
The January 6th anniversary. That doesn't even sound right to say it, right? You know what I mean?
Well, I think the point there is that a really terrible thing happened on January 6th. And I think that the desire to forget about it is wrong. It's only the fate of the United States.
I don't think here's what I think personally. I don't think we should forget about it. I think we should let this commission do its job. I think politically and strategically, you hear me use that word quite a bit. I think Biden and his campaign and and the Democrats in general have got to do better. They've got to do better strategically, because I, for one, think that they have not been doing a good job in their first year, not on actual results. I just mean like the messaging. In my opinion, they've been spending, and of course, let's remind everybody, I could never vote for a Democrat. That's just nonsense. But they've spent way too much time on COVID, and I think as a result, you've seen his approval ratings plummeting. Even his constituents are saying, "Hey, you've got to do a better job on touting your accomplishments." Even people on your side now are complaining about inflation. They want you to address it, speak about it, do a better job of it. And so really what I see is in the first year, he missed an opportunity. Not that he was distracted, but his messaging wasn't on point.
Well, I mean, let's kind of go there first off, you sound like you are in support of this administration and want them to accomplish the things they've been trying to accomplish, which I would have thought that at this point, the discussion would be how happy you were that everything I told you was going to happen came true. That yes, there's a far left wing of the Democratic Party, but that they're not going to get all the communist stuff that you were worried about.
I'm happy about that. No, I'm absolutely happy about that.
Well,
I'm just saying strategically, if I'm hired to coach them, I would be telling them, you guys got to do some shit differently.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think in retrospect and rearview mirror quarterback or whatever the terms are, you can look back and it's easy to say, well, here's the thing. They did pass a $2 trillion infrastructure bill that any other president in history would salivate to have had a chance to be.
It was really $500 million, but with inflation, it's $2 trillion.
Okay. Well, it's an all-time high infrastructure bill. Well, the mistake was maybe going for the second bite at that apple. So whatever, I would think you would be ecstatic that second bite didn't happen.
I am.
So I don't see the criticism. I mean, I think the only mistake that they're making is not making more of a point of what they did accomplish.
That's what I'm saying.
I think for me, the other thing that I think what's going to hurt them is not making I've been talking about this to you for a long time. The state, the effort in the various states with the voter suppression laws, right? And so they have apparently missed their chance to push through the voter rights bills that they should have got through. Right?
Why is that? Why have they missed their chance?
Well, because you're running out of time, right?
Why? He's only a year in.
Well, they got the infrastructure bill passed pretty quick, right? And from there, they should have moved directly to the voting bills and got that through while the iron was hot, because they promised their constituents that was going to be something they were going to do.
Well, that's government. You make empty promises.
Well,
we're used to it.
We all knew that these Republican-controlled state houses were going to pass draconian voter suppression laws. I've been talking about it. If I knew about it,
so explain this again. So what's happening nationally on there's like two bills, right? Voter rights bills.
There are two bills.
And are they both dead?
Well, here's the thing. It appears that Manchin and Sinema are just going to fuck it up. They're not going to. They just are. I just don't. This is
over the filibuster deal.
Well, I mean, the only way you could get voting rights bills through now is to have a straight Senate vote on with a.
You need 60 votes.
Well, you do, but you can eliminate that. You can, just So you get rid of the filibuster and you just make it a majority.
Simple majority.
Yeah.
But if you do that, if you get rid of the filibuster, you've gotten rid of it forever for all things, correct?
No.
No?
No, the filibuster, first off, hasn't always been there.
Okay.
It's been modified, changed.
Would you have to change it back?
They ignore it every year to pass the debt ceiling thing. So
yeah, but isn't that something else though that you've referenced? Is that something to do with reconciliation?
No, not reconciliation, but reconciliation doesn't require a 60% vote. So, but reconciliation can only be budget related, legislation. So,
or let me ask it this way:
voter rights is no way qualifies as reconciliation.
Okay, let me ask it this way: if you get rid of the filibuster to pass the 2 voting rights bills,
right.
If you just whatever procedurally makes that happen, does it stay that way until you reverse it back?
It can be reversed back.
But it does stay that way until you change it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. as far as I know, it's a rule. It's not a law.
And the rule is determined by the senators.
It's not in the Constitution. There's no. You've read the Constitution. There's no
I forgot
such
it already.
word. Yeah. No, there's no such word in the Constitution. Filibuster has been suspended or changed or, whatever.
But you like to use the word compromise. You love this fantasy of these 2 parties, having different sets of ideals, but coming together to compromise and making the best choices and picking the best from both sides that will benefit the country. Mm-hmm. And of course, I want to demolish all of that, but you still believe in that.
Yeah.
So in the spirit of compromise, wouldn't you, I understand your passion for voting rights and I have not read these bills. So I don't know what's in them,
mm-hmm.
but in the spirit of the overall big picture, I would think you would want something to protect really in how I see this forced compromise, which is you got to have 60 votes.
Mm. I don't necessarily. I mean, this attack on this coordinated, strategically planned 10-year plus plan by the Republicans to disenfranchise black voters in southern states is just Jim Crow all over again. And I don't give a shit what you got to do to stop it. It needs to be stopped.
So this for you is the hill that you die on. Like, just do it now, because the reality is, of course, you can change it back. But isn't the argument, for example, Sinema and Manchin have said, I like the bills. We would vote for the bills. We're just not in favor of ending the filibuster because we know once the shoe's on the other foot, we're not going to like that.
I don't know what the deal is. I think that I don't think we know everything about this situation with them. So, but it's too late. I don't
understand that part.
Time has passed. Well, because we're at the year mark. And so pretty much we're heading into election season. No voting rights bills are going to get passed during an election year. So it's not going to happen.
What do you know about what these bills actually do? With the stroke of a pen, what do they do?
They protect. So here's the thing. There are a variety of laws that have been passed in a number of states, right?
Mm-hmm. Many of which we've talked about.
The ones that we're concerned about are the ones where they have state Republican-controlled state houses have put in provisions so that elections can be overturned by the state legislature when they don't like the outcome. That's what they're doing. The voter right bills would prevent that. They would stop that. They would make a federal law that says, hey, you can't overturn the election result in your state at the state level. That's it. That's what it's all about. Because the next time in Georgia that there's a Democratic win, they have put in a procedure in place now where the Republican-controlled state legislature can overturn the results.
How do you do that? Do you overturn it?
You overturn it. You say, hey, this selection is void.
And you got to do a new one?
And yeah, you're going to have to read those individual state laws. But That's what the story is. That's the real problem.
How many states
That
do you
along
know?
with all other kind of things, like
Well, a lot of the stuff we talked about,
preventing ballot boxes, preventing
hours, days of the week, all that shit.
just,
How many states do you think have a provision where you can overturn the results?
I think that the laws are all pretty cookie cutter in all the states involved. It's like 19 Republican controlled
So is that the
states.
big thing in the voting rights bills, that essentially it protects the final result, and you can't undo it?
Yeah, it would prevent states from making. I mean, there's a couple. There's two different ones, and one is more. One would reinstate the need to get Justice Department okay to make election law changes in the state, and that was put in place to stop southern states from enacting Jim Crow laws.
Why did that go away? Did it have a sunset provision or what?
Because the how do I put this, when the Senate was was truly controlled by the Republicans, they killed the law. They let it sunset, right? It had been, what's the right word? Renewed? That's not the right word, but
yeah,
it
I know
had
what you
been
mean.
re-upped many times since originally, because everybody agreed it was the right way to handle this. But these corrupt motherfuckers that were in there during the Obama administration, let's look. I mean, this is a McConnell situation, right? That Senate, that Republican-controlled Senate, prior to flipping it, it's just they were just the worst.
How come I can't get you all the way home on this issue?
What issue?
On voting rights. You're so passionate about it. Why can't I get you all the way home to agree with me to just make it the same nationwide? We wouldn't have these issues if we didn't allow the states to do it differently, 50 different ways.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I guess the only thing I would say is, I mean, it's not important to me whether every state uses paper ballots as opposed to electronic submission. That's not important to me. That doesn't suppress the votes for marginalized.
But what is important
Black.
is a remote, if you want to use that term, a remote way to do balloting. So mail, email, telepathy, whatever works. I mean, let's just make it easy.
Well, let's make it easy. But so, I mean, what I feel needs to be done at the national level is are laws that prevent southern states, and now it's not even the southern states, it's Republican-controlled states, from enacting laws that suppress the black vote. It's that simple.
And that to me makes total sense. But to me, the solution is,
once again, we have come to the right conclusion.
Yeah, but the strategy is just dumb. I mean, I just think we're making it more complicated than it needs to be. And the bottom line is, and we've talked a lot about this, states' rights versus, federal law. And surprisingly, sometimes you will defend states, and honestly, I could flip a coin on any given day. Let's just one or the other.
No. Look, I don't want every state to conduct every aspect of every election exactly the same way, because that will create a vulnerability for foreign intervention.
But has that ever been a threat?
Well, no, because there are 50 different ways to conduct.
To me, that's really far fetched. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but so
look it up.
All right, I will. But think about it. If I understand why you would do things differently for a variety of things in every state, but for a national election, all the states should do the same thing.
Well, I mean, that makes it easier for a bad actor to intervene and concoct a way to subvert the entire election.
I don't see it.
Right now, there's no way for anybody to do that, because there's 50 different independent election bodies.
But we're not thinking big enough. We got to think bigger and say, pick a time, the 2024 election, the 28, whatever it is. There's a new system. Here's a national form. Here's a national website. We're going to activate the chips we all gave you in the COVID vaccine. Whatever it is, we got to think bigger and just say it's going to be easy. It's going to be streamlined. It'll be secure. I mean, God damn it. If I want to watch a fucking movie on my streaming service, I have 2-point authentication. Well, I got a verified code on my phone.
I personally think that every person of every eligible voter, right, in this country should be required by law to cast a ballot, period.
Well, you're going one step further than me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is in Australia, and it's not a choice.
Do we really want to be Australia?
Well,
they're
really.
A disaster.
Look, I'm all for that, but I think that, this is a very serious, sad issue, and our discussion about mistakes that the Biden administration might be making is, I think it's going to be a mistake if the black and other minority constituents of the Democratic Party feel like the Biden administration did not try to deliver on what they promised during the campaign. And
there's a lot about that coming out right now.
Well, I think that the problem is that I think Joe thought he could get the second part of that infrastructure through, and that was, and then because if he had accomplished that, the momentum would be there. But that hasn't happened, and whose fault it is probably up for debate.
Well, I'm going to defend Biden here because which I never do. I was listening to Andrea Mitchell coming over here, which I like her of all of the liberal media. I like her.
She needs to go to radio.
She's in, I think, Geneva right now at some conference.
Whatever, on the radio.
Ageism.
Get her face
Ageism.
off the TV. Well, I want attractive newscasters. That's all I can do.
I know. You keep staring at the screen over here. Got to keep you focused.
What are you trying to say about Andrea Mitchell, or what are you trying to say about Biden?
Well, I said I'm going to defend Biden. I was listening to Andrea Mitchell, and she did a report on Biden's performance. And when in my opinion, when you ask an unfair question to somebody like Biden or any president, and one of the questions was, and they were doing a poll and they played a bunch of sound bites. Has President Biden turned his back on the black community?
No,
has he not lived up to his promise to the black community? They asked black people, and they were quoted in these sound bites, give him a letter grade. Are you willing to vote for him in 24? Those are unfair questions.
Right.
We're a year in. Nobody gets shit done in a year. Right. I mean,
well, but that's the problem, right? He did so much more. He passed a $2 trillion infrastructure bill in the first year, early in the first year, something Obama never did, Bush never did it. It's been 50 years since we had a decent infrastructure bill.
More than that.
Yeah. So he's done a lot.
But
already.
I mean, again, so I've also said this, it's unfair to give him that type of criticism, but it's also unfair to give him all the accolades too, because really, I mean, he didn't pass it. He's more of a shepherd to try to get both sides to agree, and what can we take out of here that's actually going to get through.
One of the criticisms is that he's been acting more like a senator than a president.
Well, that's what he knows.
Well, I mean, it is, and I think that's part of the reason why, he was overconfident on getting the second part of this thing through. It's a huge bite. It was a huge second bite at an apple. So for me, I just like to let that part of it go. I'm sorry you're not getting the free child care or whatever the fuck was in the second part of that. But
so much free shit.
There's $2 trillion of hard infrastructure that got passed. The Democrats are managing to not get credit for it, and it's
because
bad.
All of their other messaging is terrible.
Well, I agree.
They won't shut the fuck up about COVID. Really, they won't.
Well, I mean,
now they're talking. Now they spend all their available real estate talking about Russia, which, I mean, again, Russia invading Ukraine is bad. The U.S. going to war with Russia is even worse.
You have a huge problem, going on there, right?
But is it the biggest problem? I often ask you that in that, the flavor of the day. What is the biggest problem? That's not it.
We did talk about this. I mean, how how it goes in Ukraine is going to set the stage for other more important actors, such as China, how they're going to react to things, and what's their aggression going to be like going forward, right? If we let them see Russia invade Ukraine and there's no consequences, they are going to take Hong Kong, Taiwan,
Yes.
Singapore, and God knows what else. They're going to, they'll take Japan.
Well, there you go, using that word "let" again. I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, we're going to impose sanctions, but what's that going to do?
Well, I mean, you get to a point where, I mean, some things, believe it or not, are still going to result in military action. Believe me, it's not over. So the goal here is to not let any of these international diplomatic crises get to the point where you have to take military action.
No doubt.
If Russia invades Ukraine, the most important thing that we can show China at that point is not that we could militarily intervene, is that we could get our allies in to choke them to death economically.
But can we and will we?
Well, I think that's what you're saying, that Biden's wasting his time on Russia right now. This is an effort. This is the international foreign policy, right, that you did not see in the Trump administration because they didn't know what they're doing.
Well, here's why I say it's a waste of time. I don't disagree
not a
with
waste
everything
of
that you said about the domino effect that can and would happen if they invade Ukraine. But much like infrastructure, and how I liked how you framed that, that the largest investment in all these decades,
Right.
Voting rights. To me, what I think is important is, what are the things domestically, or just take that word out, what are the things that are the most important, the most, not that that's not important, but what are the things that are the most important to the American people? And in my opinion, right now, it happens to be domestic issues, not international issues. And not that they're not important.
What's the domestic issues?
Well, infrastructure, voting rights,
well,
COVID, Medicare,
I can't.
all those things.
So I'm having a little fun. Maybe this is the COVID.
Maybe.
Right? I don't know. A little trouble. Do you want them to
Inflation.
Do you want them to work on those things, or do you or not? Because I mean, you're like, stop talking about.
I think that
COVID. Stop talking about voting rights.
I think that they are suffering from the same COVID brain I have. They're not focused.
Well,
they're just plugging holes wherever the fires are.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I just don't think. Yeah, it's not perfect. I mean, I can tell you that. So, I think you should be happy that my check and balance prognostications about how much the left of the Democratic Party was going to get accomplished, pretty much went the way I said it was going to go.
Are you fearful then that, I mean, really the window that's closing is on the midterms? So are you buying all the hype and what we're seeing in the press that Democrats are doomed?
There's a real good chance that they're going to take a shellacking. I mean, are they going to turn the houses and stuff? I mean, depends how much again. And I mean, you look back when these dipshits controlled the Senate, they still didn't really. Republicans do not seem to be able to legislate. They are incapable of governing, right? The only thing they can do is
we are going to get credit for that, by the way.
What?
When we declared the Republican Party is dead.
Well, we did. We did declare that. So I think it's all going the way we kind of thought it was going to go, at least the way I thought it was going to go. I never thought he was going to get both of those. I'm sorry to see that he went. I mean, there was a time where he could have said, hey, you know what? We're not getting the second bite at the infrastructure 6 months ago and turn to the voting rights. That's a winner on a national basis. Most of the voters are in the coasts, in the big cities. They're not in these fucking red states, right?
You're not gonna say it like that. These fucking red states.
Well, they're not. And look, I'm not on any kind of goodwill mission for the rest of the country.
You are wearing a red shirt, not your blue shirt.
This is maroon.
Not your company blue. We do have the blue curtains behind you, though.
I'm going to start wearing a blue tie with these golf shirts.
You should.
So I think that had they stopped well before the holidays, and maybe 4 to 6 months ago, and turn the attention on voting rights when they could, I think they could have probably won that. Eventually, Manchin and Sinema are going to look like they're on the wrong side of that issue, and that's going to hurt even them. Assuming they are Democrats. I mean, maybe they're not.
Well, what does that even mean anymore? I mean, see, to me, I don't know much about them, but what I like about a politician is if they are willing to vote for whatever they think is right, and irrespective of the party lines.
That's not what's going on. Manchin
Why not?
Manchin is drunk with power, and Sinema's an idiot.
They both said they are in favor of supporting the voting rights bills.
That's just a cheap way to try to be on the right side of that issue, but they're not willing to do anything to make it happen.
Because what the ask is a single ask.
Well, you have control.
Figure out another way.
You have control of the Senate. You can bring a voting rights bill to the floor.
That's right.
And you can vote on it.
They should do that.
And if you get rid of the filibuster and make it a simple majority vote, you can pass it. If you're in favor of it, then do it. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. Stop trying to take credit for
Well,
something.
whose job is it to bring the bill to the floor?
Their people, their states that they're from are not in favor of it. And they know it.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But isn't that really the way it's supposed to work? Like I always say, these are your representatives. They're supposed to represent the general consensus of the people in those states.
Well, then run as a Republican.
Well, who was it that changed their party affiliation? Was somebody recently who did that?
I don't know.
That does happen. I want to say there was somebody while Trump was president who was, maybe it was in the House. Somebody who was maybe it was a senator. So I was a high-profile person who went from a Republican to a Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Trump was a Democrat at one time. So
I mean, he was a Democrat the whole time.
Oh,
until
he never was.
Until he got behind the abortion thing, which I think he flip-flopped on. Where do we go from here? Your buddy, I read today, Andrew Yang, is on record now saying he has inside information that Biden will not run in 24.
Well, I mean, he has inside information.
That's what I read.
I have inside information.
I thought you got it all out with those drinks you were drinking.
Wow. Did you get that one, folks? Did you follow that one? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the goal was to get Trump out, and we accomplished that. I mean, the consecutive 8 years of a Trump administration would have been catastrophic. So regardless of whether things flip back or whatever, I don't see Trump winning a general election again.
I don't either.
So I don't even think the Republicans.
I don't think he will run.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And I don't think Biden will run.
No, I mean, the question is who can run instead of him, right? It's not her. It's not Harris. She's not polling well enough. So.
She's not electable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Buttigieg is still probably not there. So, hard to say. What's her name? The female senator who ran in the primary, the antitrust gal.
Warren?
Yeah.
Klobuchar, your favorite?
Klobuchar.
Yeah, but I think
she's got the gravitas.
What Yang is saying is this might open the door for a third party. Now, maybe he's saying this just to, shine some light on his party. What is it again? Forward
Party.
But,
Well, I mean, does it open the door for a third party? We talked a little bit about the Forward Party. I'm encouraged with some of the things if they're true, but I don't think they're a player in either of these upcoming elections.
I don't know about that. You are taking such good care of yourself with all of your medical examinations, all these procedures that you're doing. What I'm saying is you're going to live for a long time, and you're going to live long enough to see finally a third party candidate come in and break the curse of the two-party system in this country.
You know what party it's not going to be?
What's that?
It's not going to be the Libertarians.
It doesn't matter what it's called, as long as it's not a Republican or a Democrat. That really is the problem.
Well, I mean,
they're so locked up in their fucking craziness, both of them.
What I like about what little I've heard from Yang, and I haven't heard anything since that initial announcement of the party and so forth. So maybe you're watching something I haven't seen. because it's far away from any election. So Yang's just not getting a whole lot of press right now. But some of the things that he talked about, I like. Some of the things I wasn't overly wild about. I'm a huge supporter of, basic income stuff. I don't know. It kind of rubs me the wrong way since I've never gotten any free money, although I enjoyed getting the whatever the hell it was, $2,400 I got during COVID. It's still sitting in the stimulus money. But I think that the disruption of the political process is what's needed, not in the sense of destroying democracy and putting in a dictator like Trump, the sense of shaking up the primary process, right? Making all the primaries open, get rid of the closed primaries, open the doors for people that don't have to sell their soul to one party or the
Which
other.
could be done if we just make everything that I said, make it the same on a national level. If you're talking about a national election that affects everybody, then everything from the primaries to, who can participate and what party affiliation, just make it easy and open. Who's the best person to lead us forward?
I'm okay with that too, but you got a 50 state fight on your hands there. I don't see that happening. So, but I'm okay with that. I mean, if that could be done, I'm okay with it. My only real criteria for the voting laws is that no segment of the population, especially any segment based on race, is disenfranchised or their access to be able to vote is somehow suppressed.
Who just put their foot in their mouth about that? Was it McConnell?
I don't know.
Where he said something about he doesn't believe that there's any attempt to block black voters because just as many black people vote as Americans. Something like that.
No, sounds
and
right.
some people are like, what blacks are not Americans?
He's about as old and senile as Biden and Trump together.
I know. That's the thing. I read something else. Somebody posted about Biden that if it was your grandfather who said some of the things that he said, you would actually be taking his car keys away.
Right.
And yet he's the leader of the free world.
Well, I guess he got his foot in his mouth with this, talk about, well, maybe there would be a different reaction for a minor incursion into Ukraine. I mean, that was a guffaw that it's the way he talks. It's the way, especially, it's just the way he talks. Sometimes it's the thing I dread the most about Biden.
When he talks?
Well, because when he says stuff like that, because he just, sometimes he doesn't know when to just say the thing and then stop elaborating on it. Because when you try to, say more nuanced things about something like that, you just get in trouble. I mean, he pissed off the president of Ukraine. He drew fire from all sides about that, saying, well, so then he has to make public announcements, and you've got Blinken talking with Soborov today, the two, the Russian and the American counterparts, secretaries of state, and they're
blowing each other about what's not going to happen.
I don't know what Russia's doing. I don't think anybody does. I mean, Putin is a criminal.
Why do you put 100,000 troops on the border if you're not going to do anything?
He's like, it's like having the head of the mafia run, a major power, right? I mean, that country is, they have military, but they have no money. They have no real power. They can blow some shit up, but, they don't really, there's just not really a force, other than this kind of shit where are we going to let them invade another country in Europe when we've said for so long that we're not going to do that? And if you stand by and let them invade Ukraine, is Kazakhstan next? Which is the next one? They're already...
Well, that really is the bigger question, and I've asked you this before. What's our role in the global, protection of sovereign nations?
Well, I think in Europe, we have to decide if we're with them or we don't care about them, right? I mean, Trump's whole thing was, we really don't care. You guys don't pay your share anyway. You're on your own. That was terrible, right? And so now we're trying to back down a huge political bully in Putin with a fractured alliance, thanks to Donald. It wasn't fucked up before he came in. It was strong. It wasn't.
Well, I mean, certain alliances he broke, but it's not as if we have this,
He fucked
kumbaya. What is it? The Axis and the
he fucked
allies?
Up. Oh, God. He fucked up NATO so big, and then and then we managed to piss France off so hard. Macron is still butthurt.
They were dicks to us for so many years. Well, they can take it a little bit.
Not a huge fan of the French. Voila.
Oui.
Parlez-vous français? No. Eins des gut.
You do like buttered snails.
That's an amazing thing to me too. I didn't have a whole lot of I had some really good food. It's hard to go to Hawaii and not experience some excellent dining. Much like going to Northern Cal. I mean, you could go into any corner restaurant up in Northern California, up in the wine country, and get one of the best meals you've ever had in any cafe on any corner. It's kind of like that in Hawaii. It's like, oh my God. And can you get mediocre food? You can, but you got to kind of work at it because so many places, but we know some good places. So did eat at a great place in Oahu. You never go there, huh?
I mean, occasionally.
Yeah. In Waikiki, we ate at a restaurant called Wolfgang. It's nothing to do with Wolfgang Puck.
Good branding, though.
Yeah, good branding. I thought it was Wolfgang Puck's, but it's not.
That's why you went there.
Yeah, it was. It's a steakhouse. It was just fantastic. It's Wolfgang Steakhouse is what it is. And
when are you going to be a good Democrat and stop eating steak?
Never. And by the way, now that you mention that, I want to put a plug in. If anybody out there has not or is not watching or doesn't plan on watching Yellowstone, you really need to watch it.
Right? Well, I'm not caught up on the new season. I've started it. Where are you?
I just let me think here. I have. Did we finish it? No.
What is it? Season 4, right? That's what they're on.
We finished it last night. Season 4. Watched it on. I don't know. Watched it on Paramount or something. It's not this easy to find. It was all on Peacock. 4 seasons are on.
Yeah.
3 seasons are on Peacock. Season 4, I just finished this. Excellent. So you haven't watched season 4?
I'm on season 4.
I'm
like maybe halfway through it.
Okay. Yeah. So good.
We bounce around.
There's a great one of the scenes, not going to give anything away here. There's some protesters involved in animal rights protesters that got brought into the plot line. And so John Dutton, the main carry, the patriarch, Kevin Costner, his retort to the head.
Tell me he says what I say.
Well, he says that when you grow your sorghum or wheatgrass or whatever the fuck you people eat, he goes, when you plow the ground under, you kill every snail, every worm, every frog. You kill everything when you plow that ground under. He goes, so the real question is, how cute does something have to be before you give a shit?
Exactly.
Right? So I thought that was awesome.
He could have said, the day a cow puts a man on the moon, we'll give 2 shits about cows.
Wait a minute, that's you.
I know.
Anyway, Yellowstone, great show. If you're not watching it, it's a great show. And season 5 is supposed to start filming in March of this year. So we're a ways
That's
off.
the other thing. All the good shows were delayed because of COVID. Like Ozark is back, which is excellent. Did you ever watch that?
I haven't watched that. So
dude, you got to watch it. It's one of those shows that starts off good and only gets better.
I'll put that on my list.
That's a really good one.
I just burned through these shows so fast.
But here's the thing, and my wife and I do this too, and then we get somewhere and we feel like we need to slow down because we're burning through it. And then sometimes we got 3 or 4 going on at a time. I'm like, we got to finish it. If this was a movie, a 2-hour movie, we wouldn't think twice about finishing it, start to finish. Let's watch it. But on a series, it could be Like, what was another great one? Did you watch White Lotus on HBO?
I haven't watched White Lotus.
Last summer. Fucking hilarious. It was a 6-part miniseries. I know you like your miniseries.
Is it a comedy?
It's a dark comedy.
Yeah.
About a bunch of white entitled people in a hotel in Hawaii. Yeah. But of course, everyone's got their problems.
Yeah,
it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah. I don't find myself watching comedies much anymore. I used to watch sitcoms all the time.
It's because you're dead inside.
Yeah. done laughing. No. I just like dramas. But so many, I have all the streaming services. Oh my God. Can I even name them? I have.
And now you're paying twice as much as what you pay for satellite.
Netflix, Prime, Paramount, HBO Max, AT&T, DirecTV, whatever you want to call that, Disney, Hulu, Paramount, the Pigeon. No,
you should never be bored with all of the options that you have.
Fuck, and then you get to the end of one of these shows, you're like, it's going to be like a year and a half, 2 years or something. It's not like the old days where you got to the end of a season, you're like, 3 months, the new season starts, right? They'll be back. No way. Everything takes like 2 years to get back to. So,
but they take their time.
New season of Westworld is coming.
I never watched that.
You never watched Westworld?
No.
Well, you're in for a treat. Just start watching the whole thing. I mean, if you want something to watch, you have HBO Max, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just watch Westworld. Just start now, because by the time you get through that, the new season will be on.
Succession. Did you ever watch that?
No, but that's on
that's
my
a
list
good one
too. Yeah, I heard a lot about that. So many good shows.
They were gone for a while.
Succession.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody was because of COVID. Ted Lasso. They're not even going to start shooting that season 3 till I think February.
I have not watched Ted Lasso.
You got to watch that one.
It's a comedy, right?
Yes.
I don't want to be happy.
Come on. What did Robert Plant say? Anybody remember laughter?
Wow. I didn't know you had Robert Plant quotes inside
Of course.
That's awesome.
I have it all.
Yeah,
it's coming back. Well, let's end on a high note. You had enough fun for today, my friend?
It's so good to be back and talk the talk and walk the walk.
Absolutely it is. And please, over the next few days, check your temperature.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.